Hi everybody, I'm Tony. Have you ever had a terrible boss who made your life miserable? Or constant conflict with the family that makes you exhausted? Today, let's talk about something we all want: how to be happy. For the past 2 years, my career has been doing great. I got promoted to the position that I wanted and worked on projects that I actually enjoy. On paper, everything looked perfect, but in fact, I felt almost depressed and even wanted to quit my job. One big reason is that my boss micromanages everything I did. I knew a lot of his advice and order was nonsense and wouldn't work, but I still tried to please him because I was afraid. Afraid of getting bad reviews, afraid of getting rolled off the project, afraid of disappointing him. Then I came across this book called The Courage to be Disliked. The book has completely changed my perspective and made me feel happy again. So today I want to share what I've learned from this book and talk about how we can all live a happier life. The idea of this book comes from one of the greatest psychotherapists, Alfred Adler. Adler believed that happiness is a choice and it's something you can create right now. Let's dive into his idea and find out how we can all live a happier life. Let's start with one of Adler's most powerful ideas: the separation of tasks. According to Adler, most relationship problems come from two things. You are interfering in someone else's life, or someone else is interfering in yours. If you think about it, you don't like your boss because he micromanages everything you do. Your relationship with your parents strained because they constantly interfere with your decisions. You argue with your husband because he tries to control how you do things. No matter the situation, the root of the problem is the same. Someone is interfering in someone else's life. Adler's solution is applying the separation of task theory. When you face a problem, you need to first separate it into two parts: your problem and other people's problem. And you only need to focus on solving your own problem without interfering in someone else's problem. So for example, let's say you want to quit your job and become a YouTuber, but your wife does not agree. This seems one big issue, but in reality, it's two separate problems. One is that you want to quit, the other is that she doesn't agree. Your problem is deciding whether to quit, and her problem is deciding what she wants to do if you quit. You should only focus on your part. From your wife's perspective, she also only has one problem to solve. If you quit, does she want to stay with you or she wants to leave? In this case, all you need to do is evaluate whether you can accept the consequences brought by your decision. Meaning, if you decide to quit and your wife is going to leave you because of it, you must be able to accept that consequence. If you don't want to deal with that consequence, then you just don't quit. The key here is that you can only make a decision for the part that you have control, but you can't tell or control other people what they can or cannot do. From the wife's perspective, she doesn't want her husband to quit because his quitting might lead to an unstable life for her and the family due to decreased income. Instead of forcing or convincing her husband to stay with his job, the only thing she needs to worry about is to understand whether she wants to live with that instability or not. If she chooses to stay, she can find a way to support the family or accept the quality of life will decrease. If she doesn't want to deal with it, she can leave. Both are her choices, and her husband can't do anything to interfere with that decision. Adler argues that asking for permission is just a way to shift responsibility. If you want to quit, but your wife disagrees and you listen to her, you might blame her in the future and say something like, "Oh, because of you, I never became a YouTuber." On the other hand, if she compromises and lets you quit, but the decision backfires, she could turn around and say something like, "It's your dumb decision that made the whole family suffer." That's why you should never make decisions based on someone else's opinion. You are the only one responsible for your actions. Asking for permission is just a way to avoid responsibility. My situation with my boss was the same. Me wanting to do things my way and him not liking it are actually two separate things. If I truly believe my plan is the right one, my job is to execute it. Whether he proves or not is his business. From his perspective, instead of trying to force me to follow his approach, his real focus should be on whether the client is satisfied with the final result. Based on that, he can decide whether to keep me on the project or roll me off. But why do people interfere in others' lives? And why do others interfere in ours? Adler believed that interference isn't really about helping others. It's about fulfilling your own emotional needs. Some people do it to feel in control, while others do it to seek validation. Either way, it's rarely about the other people's well-being. It's about self-worth and personal satisfaction. The same applies to my boss constantly interfering with my project plan. He's not doing it to provide good coaching or improve the outcome. He is doing it to assert control, give directions, and feel important. It's more about feeding his own sense of authority than actually making things better. But this doesn't just happen in the workplace. It happens in every aspect of life. Adler argues that people interfere in others' lives or allow others to interfere in theirs because it gives them a sense of psychological satisfaction. We like to believe we are helping others out of kindness, but in reality, we are doing it for ourselves. Even we think we are being selfless, deep down it's about our own emotional needs. If we're not living for others' approval, then what are we living for? This brings us to Adler's second core theory, the sense of belonging. Adler believed that true happiness doesn't come from being liked, it comes from being useful. Instead of constantly seeking validation, we should focus on contributing to those around us. Take the workplace for example. Many people work hard just to impress their boss. But Adler would say that's the wrong focus. Instead, you should be striving to make a real impact on your team and your work. That's what gives you true purpose and value. When your actions are driven by others' opinions, you will never be free. Your choice will always be trapped by the need for approval. But a sense of community is the opposite. When you focus on doing what's truly beneficial for your team and adding value to your team, what others think of you doesn't matter anymore. This also applies to marriage and friendships. True harmony doesn't come from one person constantly sacrificing for others. It comes when both people prioritize what's best for their shared life together. Let's go back to our early example of the husband wanting to quit his job while his wife disagrees. The right solution isn't for the wife to convince him to stay with his job, nor for the husband to quit without considering her feeling. Instead, they should work together to support their shared life. Maybe the wife picks up extra income, or the husband keeps his full-time job while starting YouTube as a side hustle. That way, both are contributing towards the same goal instead of just pushing their own agenda. Here is something important. You should only contribute to the community you actually belong to. In other words, you are not responsible for someone else's wife. Now let's bring back to the situation with my boss. As long as I believe the plan will help us to win over the client, I should just go ahead and do it. And I shouldn't care how my boss would perceive my plan. From my boss's perspective, he needs to trust me unconditionally and focus on supporting the success of the execution. But we already know he is not that type of person. So if I keep ignoring his order, wouldn't that just make him hate me even more? Yes, when you stop living for others' approval, you will be disliked. People will see you as arrogant or self-centered simply because you are no longer seeking their validation. And that brings us to one of the most famous ideas from Adler's psychology, the courage to be disliked. To be truly free, you must have the courage to be disliked. People's opinion of you don't actually impact your life in any meaningful way. True freedom comes when you no longer care whether others like you or not. The moment I realized this, I stopped stressing over my boss's nonsense orders and focused on what really mattered, delivering real value to my client. I no longer care how my boss felt about me ignoring his directions, because in the end, it didn't matter. What mattered was that my work made the client love our team and want to invest more in our services. Being disliked is the price of true freedom. When you reach a point where others' approval no longer controls you, that's when you are truly free. I've seen successful people like Elon Musk take this concept to the extreme. One point, Disney CEO Bob Iger basically tried to pressure him by pulling Disney's ads from X because of his stance on free speech. And this was Elon Musk's response.
I hope they stop. You hope? Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go f*** yourself. Go f*** yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
Saying go F yourself in front of thousands of people takes real courage to be disliked. I'm still working on that myself, but at least for Elon Musk, he is truly free. This is where things really clicked for me. Once I shifted my focus from seeking approval to contributing real value, I finally felt like I was in control of my own life. But what about psychological trauma? What if the past experience have already shaped the way we think and act? Doesn't trauma hold us back? Freud believed that your current psychological issues are caused by painful experiences from the past. To heal, you must dig deep into your past, uncover those painful memories, and try to process them. Only then will the trauma stop affecting us. While this approach sounds logical, it can be extremely painful since it requires constant recall your past trauma. Adler, on the other hand, completely disagreed with Freud. He argued that your current psychological issues are not caused by past events, but by your present goals. In other words, trauma is not something that happens to you, but it is more something that you use to justify your current action. Let's look at another example. You like this girl and want to ask her out for a date. But in the end, you don't do it. Because you will keep telling yourself, I stutter when I get nervous, so I just can't ask her. According to Freud's causality theory, if you want to talk to the girl, you first need to fix your stuttering problem. Once that's resolved, you will be able to ask her out. But Adler completely disagrees. He believes you didn't ask her simply because you didn't want to. Your stuttering problem has nothing to do with it. If you truly wanted to ask her out, you would have found a way. You could have texted her, written a letter, or found another method that didn't involve speaking. So why didn't you? Because you're afraid of rejection. Right now, you are friends. Asking her out might make things awkward. So not asking feels safer and more comfortable. But instead of admitting that, you come up with an excuse, which is I have stuttering problem. And if you didn't have stuttering problem, you would have found some other excuses. Overall, Freud's causality theory is quite pessimistic. He believes your present is determined by your past. Since your past cannot be changed, that means you are stuck with whatever consequences it brings. On the other hand, Adler's purpose theory is very optimistic. He believes your present is determined by your current goals, meaning if you want to change your life, all you need to do is change your purpose. So at the end of the day, happiness isn't about pleasing others or being liked. It's about living with purpose, contributing real value and having courage to be disliked. If you want to change your life, stop blaming the past, stop seeking approval, and start taking control of your own path. So what's one thing in your life that you have been avoiding just because you are afraid of how others might react? Drop a comment below, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights like this. Thank you for watching, I will see you in the next one.